Chapter 1: The Decision to Move. Maria had always dreamed of traveling the world. She loved learning about different cultures, tasting new foods, and meeting new people. However, she never imagined that she would end up moving to a completely different country. When her husband, Juan, was offered a job opportunity in Canada, they both knew it was too good to pass up. The pay was great, the company had a good reputation, and they had always talked about living abroad. But as the reality of the move set in, Maria became increasingly nervous. She had never been to Canada before, didn't know anyone there, and didn't even speak the language. On the day they were set to leave, Maria was a ball of nerves. She felt like she was leaving everything she knew behind, and it was all so uncertain. But Juan held her hand and reminded her of all the exciting things they were going to experience in their new home. They boarded the plane, ready for the adventure of a lifetime. Chapter 2: The Arrival. As the plane landed in Toronto, Maria felt a mix of excitement and anxiety. She looked out the window at the unfamiliar landscape, the tall buildings, and the bustling crowds. She had never seen so many people in one place before. They made their way to their new apartment, which was much smaller than their old one. But it was cozy and had a beautiful view of the city. Maria started to feel a little more at ease as she unpacked their belongings and made the space feel like home. The next day, Juan went off to work and Maria was left to explore on her own. She wandered the streets, taking in the sights and sounds of the city. She found a little cafe and ordered a coffee, feeling proud of herself for successfully communicating with the barista in English. It was a small victory, but it gave her confidence that she could navigate this new world. Chapter 3: Settling in. Over the next few weeks, Maria and Juan settled into their new routine. Juan worked long hours, but Maria was determined to make the most of her time in Canada. She enrolled in a language class and started meeting other expats in the area. She joined a yoga studio and took cooking classes, eager to learn about Canadian culture. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. Maria struggled with the language barrier, often feeling isolated and frustrated. She missed her family and friends back home, and wished she could just pick up the phone and call them. She also found it hard to make friends with locals, who seemed closed off and reserved. Chapter 4: Culture Shock. As time went on, Maria started to experience culture shock. She was surprised at how different Canadian culture was from her own. The food was different, the customs were different, and even the way people interacted was different. One day, Maria was invited to a Canadian friend's house for dinner. She was excited to try some traditional Canadian food and get to know her friend's family. But as the night went on, Maria found herself feeling more and more uncomfortable. The conversation was stilted, the food was unfamiliar, and the customs were foreign. She longed for the familiar comforts of home. Chapter 5: The Turning Point. Maria was starting to feel like she had made a mistake in moving to Canada. She missed her old life and didn't feel like she fit in. But one day, she had a conversation with a fellow expat that changed everything. The woman, who had been living in Canada for several years, told Maria that she had gone through the same thing when she first moved. She explained that culture shock was a normal part of the process, and that it took time to adjust to a new way of life. She encouraged Maria to keep pushing herself out of her comfort zone, and to not give up on her new home. That conversation was a turning point for Maria. She realized that she wasn't alone in her struggles, and that it was okay to feel uncomfortable. She started to embrace Canadian culture more fully, trying new foods and attending local festivals. She also made an effort to connect with locals, joining a volunteer group and attending language exchange meetups. Chapter 6: Finding a New Home. As Maria settled into her new life, she realized that Canada was starting to feel like home. She had made new friends, mastered the language, and even found a job. She and Juan had started to build a life together in their new country, and it was exciting to think about all the possibilities that lay ahead. But Maria never forgot where she came from. She made sure to keep in touch with her family and friends back home, and visited whenever she could. She also continued to explore the world, traveling to new countries and learning about different cultures. Moving to Canada had been a challenge, but it had also been an incredible opportunity for growth and discovery. Maria was grateful for the experience, and knew that it had changed her for the better.